welcome back everyone to Pod of Thrones. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
We're back with Lovecraft Country. Oh shoot, it's only been like a couple days since we recorded last episode. I don't have any Game of Thrones headlines.
I didn't.
No? It's okay.
All right.
It's all right.
I mean, maybe Sophie had her baby, or maybe she didn't.
I thought she did already.
I don't know.
You reported that like 2 weeks ago.
I know.
That she might have had her baby.
Right. She might have.
She's so coy.
Confirmed.
Is the baby in or is the baby out?
She's so young.
Are you looking it up right now?
I'm looking it up. She's so young. She doesn't need to be having babies right now.
Sure. I don't know. I mean, people used to have babies when they were like 14 in the Middle Ages. Of course, they didn't live very long, both the moms and the babies. But still, what do you think the right age is to have a baby? Just for any of our younger listeners.
33.
33?
Yeah, she's looking pretty hot even with her big belly.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
But she's like 23. I don't know. I don't think she's had it yet.
All right. Well,
just saying.
We'll take back our congratulations from 2 weeks ago.
It was pre-congrats.
Okay. Well, and you heard it here, 33. Any young ladies listening, don't have a baby before that.
Right. Well, I mean, I think 32 is when your eggs start getting too old. So maybe 32, try to get pregnant.
Well, maybe 30.
30.
So if you want 2 kids, you have like a couple years of wiggle room.
All right.
When did I have a kid?
Well, you're a youngster.
Oh, yeah. I'm so young. How old am I?
I don't know, but I had my first when I was 32.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I must have had my first when I was 28.
That's disgusting.
I know. It's so gross. 28 and I was having sex?
Not.
Well, I probably had sex when I was 27.
Not okay.
Just disgusting. I agree. I hope our kids aren't listening to this.
Well, I hope they are. They should wait until they're 27.
To have sex?
Right. But use protection.
That's pretty. Yeah, that was definitely my first sex ever. Okay. Lovecraft Country.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a dark episode. Not a lot of laughs this time around.
Whew.
But it did end strong.
Yes.
And I did clump up some pieces of this episode, like Dee's story, but we're saving the last scene for the last thing we talk about.
I don't even want to talk about Dee's story.
Well, we're gonna.
I had forgotten about it. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay. Well, so unfortunately, we start this episode with just its title, Jig-A-Bobo.
That's awful.
Now, I have heard the term. I don't want to say it.
My grandmother.
Yeah, you were okay.
Right. So my grandmother used to say the term. She used to use the term Jig-A-Bobo.
Oh, was it 2 boos?
It might have just been one. I
just
don't know, but it was very derogatory and racial.
Was that when you were little or when
I was a teenager?
Oh.
It was my step grandmother.
Did that bother you then, or
yes.
was it just like that's how like?
Well, I mean, that's how she was. I wasn't changing her mind. She was an old lady, like 4'5".
That's very little.
I know. She's very old and little and just racist. I wasn't changing her mind.
Well, at least you knew better.
Uh-huh.
Thank goodness.
I had already dated African American people, so I didn't dare tell her.
It intrigues me that you didn't just say male, just people.
Well, I mean, we're talking specifically about racism.
Oh, okay.
I had dated males before.
Sorry, that's just where my brain goes every time. I can't help it. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I don't know
bad
either.
Person.
You're
but let's
racist.
talk about the show because there's some bad shit happening in Chicago. Not a good time.
Ay.
So we didn't. Oh man, where do we even start with this? Okay,
Right.
Well, let's just start with what happens in the show because we got to talk about prior episodes too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a shit ton of people in the streets of Chicago. Dee is one of the first characters we know that we see. And we see Tick and Letty, Montrose, like they're all there except for Hippolyta. But what we get the impression of very loosely is
Someone died. And it's a hot day.
And they mention Emmett Till.
And they did?
They mentioned Emmett Till. It might have been like someone talking on the radio. or something like it was very quickly within the first like 30 seconds of the show. And I was like, okay, well, Emmett Till was murdered, but that was way down south. So what's happening in Chicago? And that's where things got really confusing for me. But we'll get there in a second. There's a bad smell in the air. Ruby says it's the hottest day of the year.
Bad day to have dead people around.
Especially unembalmed. And we'll get there. Montrose brings them all some water. Brings Tick and Letty some water. And Atticus rejects the water. Even on the hottest day of the year, he's like, I'm not taking that water.
From who?
From Montrose, his dad.
Because it's sissy water.
I guess so.
I don't want your sissy water.
It's either he doesn't want sissy water, or he's so mad at Montrose, I guess, for being gay, that he won't take water on the hottest day.
He doesn't want to catch his cootie.
Well, yeah. Is it cooties or is it just anger?
It's anger, I think. Know. Yeah. I think he's smarter than that. He's just angry. Angry that he didn't know. Angry that it was a secret. Angry that his dad is gay. All of it.
Yep. And someone says the word Bobo. It's a funeral it's Bobo's funeral.
Right. And I was like, what?
And we see Dee crying her eyes out. Someone says Dee's best friend died. He was murdered.
Right.
And I think it might have been Ruby says it's a black rite of passage, which is so dark, but also just so telling. Yeah.
Ay.
But to all of this, we should talk about what the fuck, because I was very confused at first. I had to do a little bit of digging, and it didn't take long. I think it just took Googling Emmett Till Bobo to find out that was his nickname. That was Emmett Till's nickname. So the case of Emmett Till is exceptionally famous, but I'm going to give you an out here and just give you a quick refresher on what happened to Emmett Till.
Oh, no.
In case you don't know all the details, that's okay. It wasn't a quiz, and I didn't remember exactly everything myself. Although, it's some of it's going to sound familiar. Okay, listen. Here's what happens. So, Emmett Till is a boy from Chicago who went to go visit relatives down in Mississippi, I believe it was. Was it Mississippi?
Oh, that's right. He went on a trip.
Yep, Mississippi. So he went to a grocery store one day, bought some candy, and was, rung up by a woman named Carolyn Bryant, a white woman. Now, some people said that on the way out of the store, he was heard to say, "Bye, baby." Now, he's 14 years old. Let's keep that in mind.
Bye, baby.
Bye, baby. On his way out of the store.
Yeah, right.
But Carolyn Bryant, that woman who was maybe called Baby, also said that he grabbed her, made lewd advances, and wolf whistled at her as he sauntered out of the store.
Oh, my God.
Hubba hubba. Give me some of that. Just a real creep, but maybe he touched her. That's what she was saying. Now, later on, many, many years later, she recanted her testimony, admitting that Till had never touched, threatened, or harassed her. Quote, "Nothing that boy did could ever justify what happened to him," she said. So what happened...
He was a sweet boy. ...is
her husband, Roy Bryant, was out of town on a business trip, and he came back a few days later, and he heard how Emmett had allegedly spoken to his wife, or touched her, or flirted with her, or whatever. And he was enraged. He and a friend of his went off to find Emmett, and eventually they got him. So it was Carolyn Bryant's husband and her brother. They grabbed him. I think he was he was beaten unconscious while they were driving in a truck to take him somewhere, to the Tallahatchie River. Once they got there, they made Emmett carry a 75-pound cotton gin fan to the bank of the river, ordered him to take off his clothes. The two men then beat him nearly to death, gouged out his eye, shot him in the head, and then threw his body, which was tied to the cotton gin fan with barbed wire, into the river.
Around his neck.
Doesn't say that here. I don't know. But that sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. So, putting all the pieces together now that we're refreshing ourselves on the Emmett Till story, aren't we? So, eventually his body was recovered and sent back home. So his mother, after seeing his mutilated remains, decided to have an open casket funeral so that all the world could see what racist murderers had done to her only son.
That's awful.
And meanwhile...
Can you imagine?
The guys that did it to him were arrested and tried, and guess what?
What?
Found innocent. Quickly. The jury went to deliberate, and they were done in a matter of minutes. So, Time.com, in their 100 most famous or influential photos of all time, has a very famous picture of Emmett Till's funeral with his mom and dad, I believe, standing over his corpse. Do you want to see it?
I think so. I can't see, it's too far.
Here, I'm going to pass you my phone, and then you pass it back. I'm not going to put this photo in the show notes. If you really want to see it, you can find it on Time.com. Search for Emmett Till, I don't know, body funeral. You can't see everything, but you can see his head, and it is not recognizable. Not really.
So I was looking for, not that this is, I mean, it is related, but years ago I went to the Los Angeles County Art Museum, and they had an amazing racism exhibit where there was a dark room and a truck, and the truck had its lights on, and it was set up in like this setting where there was just dirt and statues that looked like real people of these white men with shotguns and stuff. And they had this black man that was tied to, I think he was actually, his arms and legs were tied to the vehicles or something, and they were stretching him.
Yeah, they were holding him down. Do you remember what they were about to do?
I think they were about to rip him apart.
They were about to cut his dick off.
Oh, was that what it was? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I was trying to find it, but I can't.
Well, and he had been found like in the backseat of a car with a white woman, and they found him and they pulled him out of, I think it was based off of something real. I don't remember, but it was a very upsetting display.
Right. Our kids were with us, and
we weren't allowed in.
They weren't allowed in. I think anybody under 18 wasn't allowed in, but I wouldn't have let them in anyway. It was so disturbing and so realistic, but you really got the feel.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. Makes your stomach turn. And yet for some people, if you dehumanize a certain group of people enough to where they literally aren't human in your eyes, then I guess you can commit these atrocities without feeling any kind of remorse.
Who does that to even non-humans? Who does that to a dog?
Cut dicks off animals all the time.
No, they don't.
Well, balls maybe. I don't
No.
know. Something. People do that.
They do castrate animals. Yes, but that's different.
Okay, fine. It takes rage plus dehumanization.
I just don't even know. I mean, I could be pissed off. Now, I could, yes. Somebody hurt my child.
Yeah, I've thought about that sort of thing a lot. If someone hurt my daughter.
But I don't know that I could be that disgusting and gross.
Yeah, probably not that bad. But I would hurt that person.
I could probably
severely.
shoot him. Just shoot them with a gun.
I'd prefer a beating. But yeah. But that would be.
But I couldn't torture or mutilate somebody.
No, I wouldn't cut someone's dick off. That's way too much.
Even pummel their face till it looks like Emmett Till's.
Yeah, that's pretty gross.
Oh,
pretty grisly.
Makes me.
So now, then you understand why Dee was so distraught.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it wasn't even like just that her best friend was killed. It was that he was killed in like the worst possible way.
I don't think she went in to see him, but I don't know for sure.
I think she ran off. We never saw her go in. We didn't.
Right.
We
she
didn't
ran
see
off.
What was in the casket.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
And her mom's not even around.
Right. So Tick and Letty wind up arguing about how to talk to her about Hippolyta's disappearance. She's been missing a full week now. It's been a week since the last episode. And while they're trying to figure that out, and Dee is super upset, thinking about, is she going to go in the church? Is she not? She wanders off. She runs off. Something. She's gone. So they need to find her.
Yeah. They're looking real hard.
Yeah, they didn't do a very good job of looking for her.
If that was a little girl that was in my life and that happened to her best friend, I would have found her.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
They did not do a good... Okay, so let's turn momentarily to something at least marginally happier. If only for a moment. Ruby, I'm just going to do a little Ruby bit here. Ruby goes to the Braithwaite house after the funeral. She needs to get away.
Right. Wasn't she supposed to be looking for Dee too?
She wasn't there for that part of the conversation. Oh, I think she had already wandered off.
Don't be there for her family.
She wanted to get away. That's kind of what this whole scene's about, right? So Ruby goes to the Braithwaite house. Some dickhead immediately starts harassing her and is like, about
"You
ready
supposed to be here." He's like
call
the gardener.
cops or beat her up or something. I don't know. But William rolls up and stops that guy. Says, okay.
Interesting that she's riding around as William, even though the cops know that William's supposed to be dead.
I don't know what that would be. I don't know. That's an interesting question. Once they get inside, Ruby does have one line where she says he looked like a monster. And I wrote like, who? Because I hadn't refreshed myself on what was going on yet. I still didn't know that Bobo and Emmett Till were the same person. So that was the Emmett Till corpse.
Oh, right. And she gets pissed off at Christina because she doesn't feel anything.
Not yet, though. First, William slowly undresses Ruby and then bathes her. And they have a nice tender moment. It really seems like Christina William is actually legitimately fond of Ruby, doesn't it?
Yes, to me. It doesn't seem like acting.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a scam.
Right.
Yeah.
He seems interested in her.
Mm-hmm. And eventually they start making out a little bit, but Ruby stops and thinks for a moment and then takes a potion to become Dell, the dog lady.
Right.
We finally get to see the change, which was cool. Very non-violent, that change. It looks
the
like
skin just
it's
kind
like
of
vitiligo, like the color get all mottled, and eventually it takes over, and you're all one new color.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you rather have relations with Ruby or Dog Lady?
Oh, Ruby for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it wasn't about that. It was
I know.
about
I'm
Ruby.
just saying. I'm just preference.
I suppose there's a lesson there that if you have feelings for the person inside, it doesn't matter if they change forms to another being. Which would go for Christina too. I mean,
right. If
she suddenly
Christina
has a dick and the dick works,
but when she doesn't, they don't make out.
Maybe they will.
Eventually.
So Ruby is now Dell, and then the sex starts. Some real quality fucking, but Ruby's potion wears off near
quickly,
the tail end of the fucking.
Right. What?
Hey, they could have been doing that shit for an hour. You know how it goes.
Okay, but William.
Wink, wink. Yeah, I was wondering that too. William's
this is a
potion
longer
did not wear
potion.
off.
Yeah.
I guess so.
More magic in it.
Mm-hmm. So Ruby winds up changing mid-coitus or perhaps even mid-orgasm back into Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a lot of stuff happening there. We saw naked Dell. We saw splattered, bloody, naked Ruby. There was a beautiful piece of camera work where Ruby's head kind of flops over to the side and it's still like half Dell's face.
Right.
It hadn't all fallen off of her yet. That was amazing work. Saw a little bit of Ruby Booby.
Ruby Booby.
Ruby Booby. And then afterwards, after the sex, once they're all cleaned up, which again seems like it would take hours, there's a little bit of a confrontation. Does Christina care about what happened to Emmett Till? Ruby is exhausted. She's tired of feeling this way over and over and over. Christina should feel guilty for feeling safe, and Ruby feels guilty for not being there. She left. She took off. She saw the body and she left. And she's not there for her family. Exactly what you were saying. And Christina says she doesn't care about all of this, and she doesn't think Ruby does either. Today of all days, you were a woman who wanted what you wanted. What she wanted was to not be there.
Right. Or, yes, I guess.
But isn't that okay? I mean, you should be there with your family, but also if you just emotionally can't handle it. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways to grieve.
Yeah,
right?
of course there is. There's a lot of... Humans are complex.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you grieve by fucking, right? Like, you just need to feel something different.
Or comfort.
Right. All sorts of different ways to grieve. All right, so we'll come back to Christina later. But that was, actually, Christina's going to show up a lot. We'll come back to Ruby later, I guess. Okay, so let's talk about Letty and Tick and all this shit. Montrose, all sorts of things happen. All right, so after not finding Dee, Letty's back at her house. And who's
no
there?
big deal either.
Right.
It's not like, where is she? Where is she? Oh my God, she's not home.
They looked for like 20 minutes. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And Tick took off.
Well, they both did.
He didn't look at all.
They went their separate ways. they split up, and then they're like, well, Tick's looking for D, so I can go home. And Tick's like, well, Letty's looking for D, so I can go to this mausoleum. All right, but Letty's back at her house, and Gia's there, and she's looking for Atticus. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, Tick is not at a house, he's at a mausoleum, and Christina's there. And it's actually a Braithwaite mausoleum.
Right.
So apparently he called her there, and he wants her to teach him how to cast a spell. Protection spell.
A protection spell, right.
She knows that he has Titus's pages. I don't know when that information was relayed. She mentions how Hiram lost an arm trying to get those pages. So now we know for sure whose arm it was.
I think she just concluded because he wanted the protection spell. She's like, you have Titus's pages, don't you?
Maybe.
I think that's how
Or maybe he told her. But he's not giving it to her. He does offer her the key to from the orrery.
Right.
Hiram's key. To the time machine.
Fine, that doesn't work anymore.
She doesn't know that.
Right.
So she gives him some tips. She draws a protection symbol in the dust of the mausoleum, so he has to
remember,
memorize that shit.
Right, don't take a Polaroid or whatever, I don't know.
Well, he doesn't have that.
Draw it on your hand. That's
probably a good choice. And she says to cast a spell, it's more than the words. You need energy, intention, and a body. And then she gets the key. As she's leaving, he calls out, the autumnal equinox, and she stops dead in her tracks. And he wants to know what's going to happen, and she says she's going to achieve what the Order never could, immortality. Ba-ba-ba.
Cthulu.
So with that all said, Tick goes back to the boarding house, and he sees shoes on the porch, which could only possibly mean,
of course,
that Gia's there.
Because nobody else takes off their shoes.
Right, no one.
No
Not
one.
in this time or place.
No.
Culture. And sure enough, Gia's there. They have a little conversation at a table. Gia, he calls her a succubus. She says, no, I'm a kumiho.
Get it right.
Get it right, bitch.
And Letty and her sitting there the whole time, just daggers at each other.
Does Letty say anything
the
whole time? I don't think she speaks up while they're talking. She says the Nine Tails require a life force. And she goes into, it's when a man climaxes. She starts giving all this detail that's just awesome.
Right. That's when Letty walks away, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. But Tick is like, well, you're here, and you're afraid I'm going to die, so tell me what the fuck. And she says she doesn't have any of the answers, and Tick gets mad at her. Why is she here? La, la, la. But the answer that Letty says is, obviously she's here because she loves you, dumbass. And he says to Letty, our shit wasn't real. Actually, no, he says this to Gia. Our shit wasn't real.
Right.
I'm not dying. Get the fuck out. And we don't see Gia again. What a cameo.
Not yet.
She's got to come back, right?
Of course. She's in America. How'd she get there? How long did it take her? Is she magical? Did she fly? What? It's not easy to get to America.
They also mention her having killed 100 men. And that does make me wonder, did she finish the job? And if so, is that really Gia, or is that still a Kumiho?
Well,
because she doesn't say 99.
Did she say she killed 100 or she had 100?
Tick, I think it was, asked her, because we come in the middle of a conversation, and he says something like, "So you killed 100 men?"
I got the impression that he was her 100th, and he was supposed to die, and that's where she stopped.
Right. Well, that's what
maybe
we
she didn't.
saw.
I can't imagine she did.
Well, we don't know what happened after she went to go see the shaman lady. We have no idea what happened at that point. Something happened. All right. Well, so now Letty and Tick are having their fight. Letty's mad that, I guess she's mad because she knew about Gia. He told her about that a couple episodes ago.
Right.
It seems like she's just mad that he didn't fess up about fucking a demon.
Sure. I mean,
would you be mad?
I would be like, yeah, that's something you probably should have mentioned. That something stuck.
But baby, there's so much going on right now. I can't remember every little detail about my past when there's so many things happening in the present.
I think he thought it was a dream.
He thought it was a dream?
He just, it's traumatic.
Tried to repress it a little bit.
Right.
Maybe.
I would.
Maybe.
I would not want to remember that shit.
Well, he got home from war, and he was in Florida, and there was that other lady that Gia saw in her vision. So maybe he tried to put her out of his head. Tried to get over her.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, Tick storms off. But but she chases after him. He says he's going to make it right. He's going to cast a spell. Letty's like, you can't trust Christina. Interesting thing for her to say. And he says, we're surrounded by monsters. I don't have a choice. So he's dead set. He's going to do this protection spell. Got it. Some stuff happens with D, but let's keep up with these guys. Later on, Montrose and Tick catch up down on the street, I believe. And Tick asks, did you cheat on Mom? Did Montrose cheat on Dora? He said he had desires, but he never acted on them until after Dora was gone. That's nice, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame he had to repress who he was, but it certainly was a sign at the times. And he
and there's different kinds of love, and I think he mentioned something like that.
Yeah, he did. And he definitely loved Dora. I don't think there's a question about that. Tick has the book Lovecraft Country tucked into his belt this whole time, and that's going to come back in a second. So Montrose was scarred, I guess, as a child. One of his pastors got caught with a man once, and he was lobotomized. Or something
That's
like
right.
that. They said he got taken away. They cut his head open. So it's pretty serious because it was a mental illness back then. It wasn't just a thing you could be.
Right.
And
Watch Nurse Ratched.
Watch Nurse Ratched. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just Ratched.
Yes, you're right. And meanwhile, Dora lost everyone that was important to her in the riots. Both of them, they just wanted a family. They just wanted something. So they made it happen.
But did they?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? Well, they must have fucked at least once because...
Yeah.
Well, Montrose thinks he's the dad.
Or they didn't, and George and Dora did, and Montrose was like, they wanted a family. So maybe Montrose was like, hey, George, can I get some sperm?
Could you fuck my wife?
Right. Because we want a baby, but I don't want to make it.
Oh, God. I hope Hippolyta wasn't in the picture during that time. Oh, okay. So Tick tells Montrose that Letty's pregnant. She hasn't told Atticus that.
Right.
But he figured it out. And he figured it out because of the book. So it turns out Atticus did go into the time travel portal, and I haven't had a chance to look, but I guess, like, to go back and look at the last episode. But did we see him get sucked in? I don't remember that. But he must have, because he came out of the portal then and had the book.
I don't recall seeing him go in. I recall him trying to get Ruby to not go in.
Hippolyta.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Hippolyta.
It's okay.
Yeah. But, so much happened.
You know what I did do, though, because I wasn't thinking about that part. I did go back and look at the past episodes to find out more about Bobo.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really fucked up.
Yeah.
We saw Bobo briefly in, I think it was episode 3.
It's during the house party.
Hanging out with Dee, and then in episode, I think, 4 at the house party.
Right. They were all downstairs playing Ouija.
Or the attic. One of those. But yeah. I think it was the attic. They were in the attic. Dee and her friends were in the attic. Bobo gets mentioned by name as Bobo. Mm-hmm. And he asks a question of the Ouija board. Am I going to have fun on my trip?
Right.
That's so fucked up that they threw that in there. And I'm just dying to know, and I haven't Googled this yet, but did anyone figure that shit out during episode 3 or 4? Were they like, Bobo? There's not that many people named Bobo, so maybe it was... I mean...
Who?
That's so fucked up.
Did who figure it out?
There's people watching the show.
Oh.
Were they like, oh my God.
Well, right.
That's Emmett Till.
They didn't, they did, they just kind of briefly said it.
Yeah, well, it was just in passing. It's like, hey, I'm going over to Bobo's house. Mm-hmm. Or Bobo, it's your turn to use the Ouija board.
We're going to Bobo's to look at comics.
And then Bobo goes on a trip, and he wasn't there last episode when Dee had her friends over, while Hippolyta was on her trip. He wasn't there for that one, because I looked that up. He was already gone. He was in Mississippi. Fuck. So dark. Oh, okay. Anyway, so Tick did go into a time travel portal. Mm-hmm. He got that book in the future and brought it back with him.
Right. Who'd he get it from?
Some lady handed it to him, I guess.
Somebody shoved it in his hand.
Right. So
and then pushed him back.
It's more than just time travel. Like, someone knew who he was.
Well, maybe it was the big Afro lady. Afro Moon. I'm going to call her Afro Moon.
Oh, fuck. I looked her up, too. Mm-hmm. That character has 2 names, and one of them's nothing.
Afro Moon.
But the other one, it was something like, I don't remember what the first name was, but it was like someone or this other name. And the other name was Beyond, and then C''EST, which I believe is French, pronounced Say. So her name was Beyond Say.
Beyonce.
Isn't that fucked up?
That's hilarious. But
what?
The key to time lies beyond, and the past.
I bet you real Beyonce is a time traveler. That's how she's so successful. She knows everything. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the George Freeman, who is the author of the book Lovecraft Country, is not George that we knew from earlier in the show.
Yeah,
it's George Freeman,
Tick's son.
Atticus and Letty's son.
And it's their story.
It's the story of the family, yeah. With a few little changes here and there, but more or less accurate.
Interesting that was mentioned.
Mm-hmm. And that's how, I think this actually is talked about in the next scene, but that's how Tick knows about the autumnal equinox. And that's how he knows that Christina is going to sacrifice him to get her immortality. So we really, bless you.
Thank you.
Man, there's something in the air tonight.
Yep.
All of us sneezing. Okay, so, yeah. Meanwhile, Letty winds up at a church saying some prayers and asking God to protect Atticus and how magic is like the devil. And then Christina walks in.
In walks the devil.
So it turns out that Letty also called Christina Braithwaite. So Atticus is doing his thing, calling Christina and being like, I'll give you this key if you teach me how to cast a spell. And then Letty's like, I'll give you these negatives of Titus's pages if you will make Atticus invulnerable. Mm-hmm. Jesus. So Christina says, no, but I'll make you invulnerable.
Right.
And Letty's like, no, fuck you. But then changes her mind at the last second.
Mm-hmm.
So Christina goes up to Letty, says some magic words, and Letty is now invulnerable, and she gets the mark of Cain.
Right. William's weird snake wing thing on his chest.
I thought it looked like a demon skull with twisty horns. But what was on William's chest
is now on her tummy.
But we haven't seen it on Christina's chest. Is now on Letitia's hip,
right,
like her side.
I wonder where it is on Christina. Maybe she doesn't have it because she's a girl.
Well, she's invulnerable. She must have it. Letty is a girl.
If you're invulnerable, doesn't that mean you already have eternal life?
No. Well, no, I think the trick there is that you're almost immortal, but you can grow old.
Gotcha.
That's the problem that Samuel had, was he would die eventually. He just couldn't be murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay.
I'd be all right with that.
It's a start, but at least my knee wouldn't hurt like it does today.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or maybe you live with it forever.
Oh, no, that would suck. Okay. Back to Tick and Montrose. They are now preparing a ritual. Tick's telling him a little bit more about what he saw in the future. White folks were rioting all over the place. This is where he talks about it. A woman with a hood came in and shoved him through the portal. She had a robotic arm.
Moon afro. Moon afro.
He didn't say afro, but maybe. It talks about Lovecraft Country is a family story, blah, blah, blah. But we already talked about that. But the autumnal equinox is in 5 days, people.
That means 5 episodes away.
I think 2. So Montrose is going to help cast the spell. He will do anything he can to help his family.
Right. And he's really dyslexic.
And he's dyslexic, yes.
So
we learned that. So anything could have gone wrong. Tick steps into the ritual area while Montrose reads the language of Adam. I wouldn't have thought that this would work because I thought you had to be magical.
I thought you had to read it yourself.
Or maybe that. But I guess not. But Montrose reads a bunch of shit. Maybe fucked it up because he's dyslexic. Who knows? And then Tick's like, well, I don't feel any different. Do you? Montrose is like, no, I don't feel any different. Oh, well, I guess it didn't work. Womp womp. All right, so back over to Letty one last time. She's in her dark room developing pictures. Ruby arrives. Letty's talking about how she couldn't bring herself to take pictures at the funeral. And then she tells Ruby that she's pregnant. And Ruby's like, well, you shouldn't have gone to Artem, blah, blah, blah. Wait, Ruby knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
And they start putting the puzzle pieces together. Oh, yeah, the man Ruby's staying with is actually not a man, but Christina Braithwaite.
Right. Letty's like, what?
Christina has promised to teach Ruby how to do good with magic.
Do good.
Yeah. Not just do magic, but do good things with magic. Through the magic she's been exposed to so far, Ruby has learned that she doesn't want to be a white person. She just wants to create her own space. And she's going to be able to do that with Christina's help.
This seems like it's going to go bad.
Maybe.
Did she do good when she rammed her heel into that guy's butt?
Well, but she's over that now. She destroyed a white man's asshole forever. And now she's ready to move on and do bigger and better things. She was having fun working at Marshall Fields, but she's kind of over that now. That's not what she wants. She wants to have her own thing.
All right.
As a black lady, not a white lady. Okay. Christina. This was the scene that we were talking about earlier. All of a sudden, for some reason, Christina's on a dock late at night. I assume it's Lake Michigan. There's men there. Christina mutters some magic words. And the best thing I can assume is that she took down part of her protection spell. The one that would stop people from being able to hurt her.
Right. Her invulnerability?
I guess. But with all the shit that happens...
Wow.
She had something else up her sleeve. Clearly. But she was at least able to be hurt. So she takes down her protection, and the men start attacking her. They're like, you sure you want to do this, ma'am? And she's like, I paid you, motherfuckers. And so they start beating the shit out of her. And she gets a few blows in, but it's not enough. She's all bloody. Then they shoot her twice in the stomach. Not the head, but twice in the stomach. And then they tie her neck with barbed wire. And they had this giant heavy metal wheel, which, was it a cotton gin wheel? Maybe. Was it something similar? Definitely. And they throw it in the lake and she sinks. The guys are like, why would anyone want to die like that? And they leave. And then she pops out of the water and she's totally okay now and she's laughing.
I don't know if she's laughing or crying. I was trying to figure that out. Is she crying? I think she was crying because she felt how it felt. She wanted to feel it.
I maybe thought so, but the subtitle said laughing.
Well, we know how subtitles go.
Well, these are professional subtitles from HBO. They're good people. They don't make mistakes.
You think they double checked? Was she laughing or crying here?
They should have, because I'm not clear on that either. She was.
I think she was crying because she understood, because Ruby wanted her to understand.
How scary that would be.
How it
to
felt.
be that person who gets left like that. It's awful.
Oh.
All right, so that clears up everything except the Dee story. After Dee leaves the funeral. Let's get through this together, okay? Dee's walking around the city. It's pretty empty, but there's a couple, just little girls, black girls. It's not like, they lived in the neighborhood, I'm sure.
Laughing.
Who were having ice cream. They were having a fine day despite the Emmett TIll funeral. And that freaks Dee out. So she picks up some rocks and starts throwing rocks at these girls.
Right.
Screaming at them.
There's nothing to laugh at, she said.
Yeah. And then some cops roll up on her. Which could have been as simple as you just assaulted some other girls, but it wasn't. They knew her name. They took her into this alley. They grabbed her. They have her comic. And one of those cops is Captain Lancaster.
Yeah.
Ugh, he's disgusting. So the other cop is drawing asterisks like little stars on the ground. And the Captain Lancaster's like, what do you know about magic? And Dee tries to run, but instead she gets grabbed again, and he summons a bunch of maggots and flies coming onto the ground and then he puts spit, like I think he spit on his hand and then rubs it onto her forehead.
It was some gross
thick
spit. It was like sperm ejaculation.
It looked more like that, but it came out of his mouth. And then she can't breathe. She starts gasping and wheezing, but she doesn't die. Eventually, they walk away and she gets better. And she's got shit on her forehead, but she's okay. She leaves. She continues walking down the alley. And there's this cream of wheat poster with the black guy. And his eyes
follow her.
Oh, creepy shit, right?
Yes.
So she goes home.
To say the least.
Montrose is there. This is before the casting of the spells and all that shit. And Dee starts yelling at him, where's my mom? God damn it.
Right.
He's like, she's on a trip. And she's like, I know you're lying, you son of a bitch. So she locks herself in the bathroom, washes her forehead, And he starts trying to relate to her through the door. He says, when I was young, white folks took my best friend too. White folks just keep coming. No matter what you do or how well you do it, they always try to take it away from you. It makes me feel bad as a white person. I don't want to be that guy.
Well, don't.
But I mean, it just sucks. Fucking white people. Because it's true. I mean, it's happened all through America's history.
Well, I mean, it's throughout the world.
Well, not always to black people throughout the world, but in America, there's a definite tradition of taking from black people. So while she's washing her forehead, there's a little bookshelf next to the toilet, like you do when you don't have the internet. And one of the books is Uncle Tom's Cabin. And the book clearly turns evil. Like there's two little girls on the book, and then their faces start to change. And Dee's looking at that. And then the book flies off the shelf and she runs. She goes out the fire escape. She's like, I can't take any more of this shit. So whatever. She leaves Montrose. She's out in the city again.
Montrose breaks in and finds the book.
But the book looks normal then.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's on the floor.
I think.
No, it does. I was looking for it. She's on a train platform in Chicago.
Weird.
And I don't know where she's trying to go.
Away.
Then all of a sudden, we start to see these creepy girls, the girls from the cover of Uncle Tom's Cabin. Now, they're both black girls, but one of them has white face paint on. Mm-hmm. And they have their hair done up very old-timey and ragged. Like, it's very authentic looking styling, I guess, from what we saw on the cover of the book, from what would go back to, like, slave times, I suppose.
Right.
Or maybe it's overly stereotypical, actually. I don't know for sure. But they are styled like those girls. And they are creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
Is it making you feel anxiety?
A little bit.
That scene, because the first time we saw them, they were coming up that train, the staircase to the train platform. There's just one thing my brain keeps going back to, which is The Wiz. The movie version of The Wiz. Originally a stage production, but in the movie version, they add this subway scene where our heroes are like, they got down into the subway, they're feeling all right, everything's okay, and this creepy dude that's been following them comes down the stairs with these little bouncing marionettes of his, and then he just starts laughing, and the marionettes start growing and growing and growing, and then they wind up chasing after our heroes, and they look stupid, but it's still the scene is so well done that it's very disturbing, even though the marionettes look dumb.
Yeah.
But it just kept bringing me back to that. I don't know if it was supposed to, probably not. I'm sure there's something else.
You don't think it was supposed to take you back to The Wiz?
Hey, look, it could. I mean, that is a very famous black production. So maybe, it's part of black history somewhere in there. But I don't know. So Dee runs away there. And as she's getting away in the crowd, like one of the girls starts to grow these really long fingernails that are super pointy. But she doesn't quite catch up to Dee.
Yeah.
So Dee runs and runs and runs, makes it all the way to Letty's boarding house. Letty's on her way out in a hurry. This is when Letty's going to the church.
Dee, where you been?
And Dee...
she doesn't go inside.
Dee thinks she sees the girls coming, like, down the street. And no one else can see these girls. But she tries to point it out to Letty. Letty doesn't see what's happening.
Yeah, she already asked a man at the train station, do you see them? And he's like, what are you talking about?
And Dee was about to tell her what the fuck is going on, but then she starts coughing.
Mm.
And Letty's like, go get some water. And she runs off.
Right.
So the girls are back. Dee is going to go into the house, but she sees Woody in the bushes. And now she's like, what the fuck? Woody's here. Where is my mom? I assume that's what she's thinking. And she starts looking through the car, but the girls get to her and she has to run. So she gets on a bike, speeds away. Next time we see her, she's somewhere deeper in the city. She sees a bunch of cops. She's
watching them, right?
The girls are coming up behind her, but she's not concerned. She looks at Lancaster and she chases after him on her bike as he drives away.
Do you think she didn't know that the girls were coming?
I think she was just hyper-focused in that moment.
And they almost got her.
They almost got her. Lancaster, now in his office, he's reading the newspaper, and Letty is on the cover as, like, she violated norms by moving into this house. Mm-hmm. So she's a cover story in the newspaper, whatever. And then Dee busts into Lancaster's office and confronts him.
Right.
So that's when we learn the reason she started coughing was because the spell that Lancaster put on her stops Dee from talking about their little chats. And she wants to know what happens if the girls get me. He won't answer that. But he says if Dee gets him the orrery, he'll save her from whatever's following her. She spits on him, says, "Fuck you, pig." And she runs away. The guys are going to chase her, but Lancaster's like, she's already dead.
It's interesting that he said, "Do you know what an orrery is?" And she's like, "Yeah, I know what an orrery is,
yeah.
idiot."
Hippolyta trained her well.
Mm-hmm.
Letty didn't know. When Christina came looking for an orrery, Letty's like, what the fuck is an orrery?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dee's getting away again, and we're going to take a quick side turn because some new audio starts playing over Dee's escape from the police station. So, I will just suggest that you Google Naomi Wadler. So, Naomi, Naomi, Wadler, Wadler. She gave a speech at March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C. back in 2018. And she was at that point, I think 14 years old, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. 11 years old. She was 11 years old, and she gave this moving speech about her classmate and other black girls that have been killed in school shootings. And she said, I'll just read a little snippet of this. "I am here today to acknowledge and represent the African-American girls whose stories don't make the front page of every national newspaper, whose stories don't lead on the evening news," which is totally true. I mean, I've seen people joking about that for my whole life of like, well, if a girl goes missing, if she's a photogenic little white girl, you'll see her on the news. Mm-hmm. Like that used to be, I mean, not a good joke, but like a truthful joke, you know? "I represent the African-American women who are victims of gun violence, who are simply statistics instead of vibrant, beautiful girls full of potential." That's what was playing as Dee was about ready to confront these, whatever they are, demon girls. Yeah. "For far too long, these names, these black girls and women have just been numbers. I'm here to say never again for those girls too. I'm here to say that everyone should value those girls too." I mean, it's very Black Lives Matter, specifically about these young girls, because that's what Naomi cared about the most. But yeah. So look that up, Naomi Wadler. There's videos, plenty of videos of her speech all over YouTube. So as that audio is playing, Dee is like on the bicycle. It looks like she's about ready to joust these girls. I thought she was going to bike towards one and then
I thought she was going to run into it.
Like a spinning kick or something. I don't know. But yeah, she just got away again. And she goes over to George's shop. Locks herself in there, closes all the doors, locks all the windows, everything. And she gets ready for an attack.
She leaves the one door open that they can come in.
Did she leave one open?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought she locked them all.
Oh,
and
no.
was just waiting for them to break in.
She went around and locked every door and then opened one.
Oh, good eye. I missed that. All right. She had a pipe. She started drawing pictures of the girls. Maybe that was to like try to take their power away or something. And eventually they arrive.
Oy, oy, oy.
She starts beating the shit out of them with a pipe. And then Montrose gets there and he just sees Dee flailing madly in the air with a pipe at nothing.
Mm.
So he tries to do the right thing and grabs her and starts holding her to try to get her to calm down. And so one of the girls gets to her with her pointy claw nails and just jabs them.
Yeah.
Dee's arm, and her arm starts bleeding, and she's like black shit
getting
going up her
infected.
veins.
She's getting gangrene pretty quick.
Yep. And she's screaming, and Montrose doesn't know what the fuck's going on.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what if Montrose hadn't been there? Eventually they would have gotten her anyway. She can't just swing a big heavy metal pipe.
Yeah, they're dead or whatever.
Whatever they are, yeah, hitting them in the head with a pipe wasn't helping.
No, but
neither was Montrose.
It was keeping him away.
Right. So we know something's going to happen with her next episode with she's cursed. They figure that much out. And then Christina may be involved in helping save her.
Aye.
So we saw that in the preview for next week. Ah, poor Dee. She had a rough day.
Yeah.
Like that was all one day. Fuck. And then the last scene. The scene that can finally help us feel better after all this dark shit that's been happening. From Emmett Till all the way to Dee getting taken by these claw monsters. We're back at Letty's house. The cops arrive. And not just a couple of cops. It's like all the cops.
Right.
Fucking so many cops. And Lancaster and a couple goons come up to the house and start ringing the doorbell. Ruby's like, I'll deal with this. You stay back. And she tries to greet the officers and play the little game. And they say they got a tip that no Nation of Islam radicals were there. Ba-ba. Okay. And one cop goes in, very presumptively, just pushes his way past Ruby. And then Lancaster tries to go in and gets bounced off by the magical force field.
Now awesome. He knows they know magic.
Mm-hmm. So he's like, well, let's leave, boys. It seemed like that was very anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But instead, they start shooting up the house. And everyone has to get down. It looked like one guy got shot.
Yes.
Like just one of the boarders who were living in this house. It looked like he took one in the leg. But everyone we see gets down on the ground. The bullets are flying. And then one lady gets up a little bit because she's had enough of this shit. And a bullet bounces off of her.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one. And another one. She's like, oh. Well, I am invulnerable. And Ruby's like, get down, but Letty's okay. And Letty runs outside.
Well, she doesn't run outside yet.
Well, she starts heading for the door.
Tick
I think she was going to go confront them.
And she sees him out the window.
Did she see him out the window? I thought she was already on her way out. But yeah, Tick wanders up because he's just going to go chat with Letty, I guess. Have a nice night.
Right, and he's freaking out. He's like, what do I do? Do I go in there? I'm going to get shot.
There's a billion cops.
I'm not invulnerable.
Right. And then the cops notice him, and they all turn their guns on Atticus, because you need 30 different cops or more to take down one unarmed black man. So they all train their guns on Atticus, and Letty starts screaming, and she runs out, and she starts, because I think she's going to throw herself between Tick and the bullets, because she's invulnerable. The cops start shooting, and it's too late. And the slow motion bullet coming towards Tick, and you're like, well, God, I hope Montrose got the fucking spell right. Maybe he did. Or maybe this is what happens when you flip a couple words around.
Yeah,
because maybe. Atticus is not bulletproof. Instead, a fucking SHOGGOTH, a big one, a big monstrous SHOGGOTH comes bursting out of the cement, the asphalt, which is impressive in its own right.
Right, where'd he come from?
He
middle of the earth.
He's a protector. I don't know. And the cops get massacred. Oh, we got to go watch that scene. Just that scene. We don't need to watch the whole episode. We got to watch that scene like 3 more times. Like they're getting torn apart. There's one point when like Letty and Tick are hiding up against a car, and this cop bursts through the window, and then this big spike comes through his mouth.
Yeah,
from the
that's
other
awesome.
Side. Oh my God, it was amazing. So the cops get destroyed. There's blood everywhere, and we do see Lancaster. He gets pinned down. He gets one of his arms ripped off. And then I think he gets thrown like half a mile.
Yeah.
But we don't see what happens. It's hard to imagine that he would die that easily. Especially...
No, I thought that he got his head eaten.
I don't think so. Well, we definitely saw his arm get taken off, but we didn't see everything that happened to him. But then a body went flying a couple seconds later, so I assumed that was him. Maybe, maybe not. But he can't be dead. We don't have answers about that motherfucker. He had, like, his whole chest was all black and
that's right.
Weird looking.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta learn
He was
something.
taking a potion, and he's not white.
Maybe. Or, see, well, what I think might happen is that we'll see him again, and he'll have a completely different arm.
A robot arm?
No, I think it'll be a fleshy arm. Maybe a black arm. Maybe a white arm, but definitely not his arm. His 2 arms won't match. Because I think that's what he does. I think if he gets hurt, he replaces his body parts.
Really?
I think that's why his chest was black. I think it was some previous injury, and he replaced it with
somebody's black body?
Someone's black torso, something like that. I hope we find out. If he's just dead, that would be a bummer. Because there are mysteries to solve there. I remember when Dee was in his office, too. She's like, it smells like shit in here.
Yes.
Because that guy is still in the closet.
What's going on with that guy?
That's none of our business.
All right.
Best leave Lancaster to do what he needs to do. So, yeah, man. I mean, the SHOGGOTH annihilated all the cops. I don't know how you're going to explain that to whoever comes to clean up the mess of all the cops being dead. Who is that? Who cleans up that mess?
I don't know. It magically goes away.
Does it?
It must.
So the SHOGGOTH has done his job. He's protected Atticus, which means the spell did work, but not in the way that anyone thought it would. And the SHOGGOTH comes up to Atticus and just like bows his head, and Atticus touches his little...
It's like Toothless.
Face. It is. You're right. From How to Train Your Dragon.
Right.
Same kind of like mouth structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Except he's got a lot of teeth and eyeballs.
I guess Toothless probably didn't have teeth, huh? It's called Toothless.
He didn't seem to. Although I think they eventually came out when he's being mean or something.
Okay. Interesting. I don't remember much about that movie. But yeah, so Atticus is maybe not immortal, but he does have a guardian. And we have 2 episodes left.
He's going to be walking around with him on a leash.
That'd be great. Mr. Blue Skies is playing, and he's just like walking his Shoggoth down the street, and like the Shoggoth like makes a funny whining noise, and then squats down and makes a giant poop that's almost as big as Atticus. And Atticus pulls out a huge plastic bag, and all the time it's like Mr. Blue Skies, Mr. Blue Skies.
Yes, that would be so cute. Teaches him to sit. Stop it.
What? That'd be great. I hope the next episode starts like that. But it probably won't because Dee's all fucked up. So 2 episodes left. I mean, that's got to climax with the autumnal equinox. I don't know where the book ends. Does the book have more after this stuff with Christina and Atticus comes to a head? I'm kind of afraid that it might not, but I am very hopeful that someone will decide that there are more stories to tell in this world.
We'll see.
God, I hope so. Come on, Jordan Peele. You can make it happen. I believe in him.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right.
Until next time.
Until next time. No, but you're shaking your head at me. I know you don't like the sign off, but there was a Shoggoth.
I don't like the Shoggoth.
Oh.
I mean, he's cute now. Maybe you should say Lovecraft Country. Lovecraft, baby, Lovecraft.
Lovecraft, baby!